Hey there, I'm Amy from thecrazycraftlady.com. It's July, so that means it's time for Christmas and July crafting. I'm not a huge Christmas and July crafter in general, but last year I had the idea. I was like, I want to kind of share some Christmas crafts that you don't need specific Christmas craft supplies for. I know like Hobby Lobby and Michaels, they're starting to roll out some other Christmas stuff, but I don't like the idea, especially like I keep all of my Christmas specific craft supplies in a tote. I don't like the idea of pulling that out in July. I more so want to just share crafts that you can make any time of the year with what you've got on hand. So last year I made a compilation video of Christmas crafts that you can make with kitchen items from the dollar store, and it was wildly popular. So this year I am kind of following that same trend, and I'm going to share some Christmas crafts that you can make using cardboard. So upcycled cardboard crafts. So save those Prime Day boxes and your cereal boxes because we're going to make some crafts with them. Let's get making. For this craft, you want to start with a scrap piece of cardboard. This one was probably 12 inches by 12 inches, and it was also quite a bit thicker. It was from like an IKEA packaging because I wanted my corrugated piece to be thicker and more substantial. So I just took a wet rag and wet down the top layer of the cardboard, let it sit with the rag on top of it for like 5 minutes at most, and then you can come back. And because this was an insert piece and not from a box with stickers or anything, it peeled off beautifully and so nicely. Just that top layer revealing the corrugated pattern. And then, bear with me, I went into Cricut Design Space, I searched Christmas tree farm maybe. Here's your screenshot of the code. Take a screenshot, this is the code that you need if you want to make this if you have a Cricut subscription. And then I just made an oval about the size of the sign that I was going to use. And then I kind of tinkered with, I separated the text from the trees because I wanted the trees to be considerably bigger. So here's just kind of like a walkthrough. You can see how I did it. Feel free, you're going to need to tinker around to make this match the dimensions of your own sign. But the point here is that I cut the text and the trees separately because the text you're going to want to put on the sign, and then the trees you're going to want to use to cut out on the cardboard because it's going to be vinyl text and then cardboard trees. And so here everything's cut out. I've got my vinyl letters and then my vinyl trees. So I weeded my trees and then I'm going to use those as the stencil on my cardboard. If you do not have a Cricut, fear not. You can easily make cardboard Christmas trees like a little sign. Just go to like Google image search and Google Christmas tree outline, or do it in Canva. Canva's great for getting outlines of images for templates for these types of things. And then I kind of dry fit my little stickers first because I wanted all my Christmas trees at different angles, and the reason being then the corrugated lines will be at different angles on all three trees. So just peel the sticker off, place it onto the cardboard, and then I just grabbed my little mini cutting mat here and a little knife blade and started cutting. Now this is considerably thicker cardboard than your average Amazon box, so it didn't cut all the way through, and it was a little tricky, but I think worth it for like the end result. And so first I just cut around the entire perimeter of that Christmas tree, and then once I had done that, I just came in with craft scissors. So here I'm using my heavy-duty craft scissors just to kind of get it cut out. But I don't use my heavy-duty craft scissors because they have kind of a shear on them so you don't get crisp lines. So I just used my regular Fiskars craft scissors to then cut out and get clean lines on that corrugated side. And you'll see here I'm flipping the cardboard back and forth
so I can see the guide, the Christmas tree guide on one side, but then I can also see the corrugated side to make sure that I'm getting as clean of edges as possible when I cut. And then I just grabbed some craft paint here. I used one shade of green, and then I just kept adding darker green to it for each successive tree after that. And the two paint colors that I used, this is Folk Art Matte Paint. The lighter green is called Mossy Meadow, and then the darker green that I mixed into it is called Olive Green. So you can see here, I just keep adding in darker green. And it took me a lot more dark green than I thought it would to get the light to darken up, but that's okay, trial and error. And then just use a pouncer brush to apply a very generous coat of paint onto these trees because that cardboard will soak up a bit of paint, and then set that aside to dry. Then I dry fit everything, my vinyl letters, just on this dark green vinyl, and my trees. Then I just used my transfer tape to apply the vinyl first, and then did the cardboard trees after. The first two trees I just hot glued straight down to the sign, easy peasy, but then for the second tree I wanted it to be elevated, so I just added a piece of scrap cardboard on the back and then hot glued that piece of scrap cardboard to the sign, and that way the trees kind of overlap a little bit. Here you go, my finished little Christmas tree farm sign. Start with a cereal box and this print off template for gift tags, which will be available in the blog post for this craft. It'll just be a click here to download type button thing. I'm going to show you two methods for image transfer here. One, you take a pencil and you sketch all over the back wherever the ink lines are on the printed image that you want to transfer. Take your scissors and cut a piece of the cardboard off, then lay your image to be transferred on top of the cardboard, and then I use this little handy scoring transfer tool, or you could just use a pen to trace right over it, and it will then transfer the pencil lead from the back onto the cardboard. Super handy. This is a great method if you don't do a ton of image transfer projects, but I finally got smart and ordered carbon transfer paper because I do a fair amount of transfer projects. It's really cheap. You get like a bunch of sheets. It has carbon on one side so that when you do the same exact tracing method, you don't have to scribble all over the back with pencil lead. And then you'll see here how much darker the transfer is, pencil versus transfer paper. Either way it works, and then you just take your craft scissors and you cut out your gift tags. Make sure to cut inside the transfer line so you don't have any of that pencil lead or carbon showing through. And then once I had all my gift tags cut out, I just used my mini hole punch. You could use a regular hole punch, but I have a miniature one to punch a little hole so you can hang up your gift tags. And then I took everything outside and spray painted with this Rust-Oleum Hunt Club Green, which, okay, side note, I used on here a couple craft projects that I used these on last Christmas. Hunt Club Green spray paint and gold rub and buff is my favorite Christmas craft paint combo. Anyway, I'll link to those projects in the video description below. And just a side note, I maybe would have put like a tiny piece of double-sided tape underneath each gift tag because as you spray paint them, they might fly around a little bit, or just paint them with chalk paint. Either way. And then to embellish, I did something a little different here. And I know not everyone's going to have image transfers, but if you have stickers or a paint pen, you can do whatever you want. I just ordered this stack of image transfers off Amazon in preparation for my Christmas crafting this year. I kind of fell in love with the vibe and the aesthetic of all these images. so I knew I would eventually use most of them. And I just grabbed the smallest of the little images and transferred them right onto my gift tag. Just grab a little smoothing tool, put a piece of paper over it to protect it, and then peel that clear plastic backer right off. And then I felt like the edges were missing a little something, so I have this antique brass craft paint. It's one of my go-tos other than my antique gold rub and buff. This is more of a brass. And I just kind of painted the edges with a fine point paintbrush. Do whatever you like, but if you're not using image transfer decals, you could also just use paint or a paint pen to add in a design or an embellishment or even someone's name. But that's it. Here are my finished little gift tags. I think these would look really good with some neutral or some green or even some plain cardstock gift wrap this Christmas. Here I just started off with an Amazon box. It has spray paint inside it because I had previously used it I put something inside it when I spray painted it. Not the nicest piece of cardboard here, it's covered in tape and stickers and stuff, but I made it work. I just got it wet with a little scrub rag and let it sit for a few minutes. Then I came back and re-wet it and then started peeling that top layer away. A little trickier because those stickers and everything, but it worked out just fine. I found that starting at a different corner. If you're having trouble getting started, switch to a different corner, and that just might be all you need to get momentum going, and then you can peel away that top layer. And then I apologize, I used a jumbo wooden paint stick as my guide, which I know makes measurements for you all really weird. So basically you want to cut your cardboard into 12.5 inches by 1 3/8 inches strips. So a jumbo paint stick is 1 3/8 inch wide. Now you know. And then I just used my heavy duty craft scissors and cut those strips apart. Easy peasy. And then from there, I just pulled out my craft paint and a pouncer brush. So I used 2 different paint colors combined and then 2 other plain greens. So the plain greens are Avocado and Aloha from DecoArt. And then the other one is an Americana paint light green, Hauser light green with just a dab of navy blue mixed into it. It's called Uniform Blue from Folk Art. Honestly, whatever. These were just like, I had a quarter bottle of each left in my craft stash, and I was like, I want to use these up. But whatever green paint you like, it really doesn't matter. Then once everything is dried, cut a 1.5 inch piece of that cardboard strip and a 2-inch piece of that cardboard strip. This is going to be the base of your little twisted Christmas tree. I just used some, it's not twine because I feel like I use twine in every craft that I make. It's just floral wire wrapped in like brown craft paper, but just use twine, whatever. Make a double knot, form a loop, then start with the 1-inch piece, hot glue it with that little loop in there and start twisting the cardboard around until it's totally wrapped around your wood dowel, and then grab the 2-inch piece and hot glue that right beneath the 1-inch piece. So this is the base of your Christmas tree here. Then you're going to cut a 2-inch piece and a 3.5-inch piece and layer them. So hot glue the end of the 2-inch piece, stagger it about a 1/4 of an inch below the top of that first piece and roll it all the way around. Then take your 3.5-inch piece and stagger it a 1/4 inch below the top of that second piece. And that forms your little Christmas tree shape. Then finally, whatever is left over of that cardboard strip there, cut it in half, hot dog style, and then glue it flush with that base piece. And that creates all the layers of the Christmas tree that you need. Then you just cut off the dowel, the remaining part of the wooden dowel, heavy duty craft scissors here, And then here is a close-up of the finished, all the layers. So once again, the dimensions are 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and then 2 inches and 3.5 inches, and then cut that remaining piece in half hot dog style, and you're good to go. And then you can string these up as a garland or hang them as Christmas tree ornaments, whatever you like. This craft was inspired by a viral DIY holiday bell made out of toilet paper tubes and Easter eggs that I saw on Pinterest. I couldn't get the paper tubes to line up with my Easter eggs, so I decided to recreate this project using a cereal box. But I just cut a strip of cereal box cardboard. You don't have to be exact. I made each of my 3 bells at different heights, so cut it 1.5 inches, 2 inches, 2.25 inches, whatever you like. Cut off the smaller half of an Easter egg, and then just start hot gluing that strip of cardboard all the way around in that, and it'll nestle right into that rim of the Easter egg there. Then you want the tail to overlap just a little bit, so cut it off so it overlaps by maybe 1/4 inch or a little bit more, and then hot glue everything together real securely so that those 2 tail ends lie flush. Then you're going to kind of embellish everything with hot glue. My fine point hot glue gun is a lifesaver here. So a strip of hot glue right along that seam, and then another line of hot glue along the seam between the cardboard and the Easter egg. I also did a second line, maybe 1/4 inch underneath that first line, and then I also did a line of hot glue all the way around the base of what is now my bell. So 3 horizontal lines in total. Then I also added a dab of hot glue on the top of the Easter egg and popped a little wood bead right on top, and that is where the hanger is going to be so I can hang these bells up. Then take your fingertip and try to rub away as many of those stray little flying hairs of hot glue as you can so you have a nice smooth surface. I just grabbed a 1-inch flat paintbrush and some black chalk paint. I painted the whole thing, inside and out, with the exception of right in the center. I left the very center of on the inside of the Easter egg unpainted so that when I hot glue my little bell hanger, it would have something to stick to and it wouldn't be ripping away the chalk paint. But just a solid coat here, and then this is my lazy girl hack. I didn't want to have to wait for the inside to dry before I painted the outside, so I just set the bell on a piece of parchment paper, and then the paint as it dries doesn't stick to anything. Then once the black chalk paint was all dried, I grabbed my go-to antique gold rub and buff 1/2-inch brush. This is my rub and buff brush. I use it for all my rub and buff projects. And kind of a dry brush technique. You don't want too much. And that's why it's called, rub and buff. You kind of buff it in. And you can add as much or as little of the gold paint as you like and leave as much or as little of the black paint exposed underneath, depending on how worn and distressed you want your little bells to look. Then I finished it off. I tied a double knot in the one end of a piece of twine. No, a triple knot, sorry. Triple knot in the end of a piece of twine. Covered it in hot glue, and then very gently set that down inside the bell and used the end of a paintbrush to press that knot right into the center of that Easter egg there. That way I have my little hanger. And then you add a tiny little wood bead. I painted these black at the same time that I painted the bells black. String that up, get it hanging right at the height you want where it hangs just outside the bell so you can see it. And then add a knot very carefully to secure, and then cut off any tail end that remains of that twine. So when I first did this, I tied the knot for the wood bead first, and I was like, oh, that doesn't make sense. You need to hot glue into the bell first, then add the wood bead. And then for my hanger, I just have this gold floral wire. I wrapped it around the end of a paintbrush 3 times, gave it a little twist, cut off the tail ends. So I had this little screw eye hook there. Add a dab of hot glue inside that wood bead and then pop that right into place, and there's your little hanger that you can then string twine through, and hang up your holiday bells. So like I said, this is just my variation on something that I saw on Pinterest. I saw this, I think last year when I was obsessed with making all of the bells, and I did a compilation video of all the bells that I made last Christmas, but I just never got around to trying this version, so I hope you enjoyed it. And here are all 4 of my cardboard Christmas crafts together. I do hope you enjoyed watching these crafts come together. Until next time, happy making.